Hi, welcome to ShowMeTheCurry.com. I'm Anuja, and today we're going to show you a very popular Burfi recipe. It's called the 7-cup Burfi recipe. Now, it sounds like a really weird name, but it actually makes a lot of sense. There's 7 cups of different things that go into making this Burfi. Now, this recipe was given to us by Soumya Gauri Shankar. Now, this is a recipe of her grandmother's, and her grandmother always used to make it around Diwali time. So, what an appropriate time for us to show it to you. So, very simple recipe, and let's get started. So, one of the key ingredients that goes into making this recipe is chickpea flour or besan, and we have non-stick skillet over here. We're going to put the besan in here and then turn on the stove. So on low to medium heat, so you have control over it, you're just going to cook it. So one of the things Soumya said was that her grandmother does not roast the chickpea flour, but we feel that chickpea flour sometimes has an aftertaste when it's raw. But if you're absolutely okay with it, you can just totally skip this step. How wonderful. You can get to making the burfi even faster. And we're going to slowly roast it. Now what we're looking for is a very, very fragrant aroma over here. We're not going to be looking for a change of color in this particular case. So a couple of things to keep in mind is you need to keep stirring it, and you want to try and use a pan that is heavy bottomed. It's getting there, very close. Alright, I think this is done. I'm going to turn off the stove and I'm going to transfer it so it stops cooking because the pan is still hot. So for this recipe, here's some of the other ingredients we're going to be using, and like I mentioned, it has got 7 cups of different things. So 1 cup besan, which we already roasted. We've got 1 cup of shredded coconut. Now this is fresh coconut that we've actually shredded. We're going to use 1 cup of heavy cream. We're going to use 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of ghee. Now for this recipe, you really need to use ghee because it is besan. You're going to, otherwise you're going to be tasting the oil and it won't be any fun. And we're going to be using 1 cup of combined nuts. Now we're using almonds, some pistachios and some cashews. Now you can eliminate this step totally and you can just add on more sugar if you like, or more coconut, and basically you need to come to 7 cups. Everything else is ready. I am going to chop down the dry fruits that we are using. Now I love using pistachios because they actually have a little salty flavor to it. These are not salted, but they still have a little more salty flavor than any of the other dry fruits. So it kind of balances out the sweetness of mithais and burfis. Now you can use raisins and you can use dates, you can use anything actually. It's such a versatile recipe. And like Soumya mentioned, it's a very forgiving recipe also. So of course we all love forgiving recipes, don't we? Alright, everything is prepared, and I have also got just a little bit of ghee, which I'm just going to put on a baking tray or any kind of plate that you're going to be setting the burfi in. And I've just put a parchment paper over it just so that it's easy clean up and easy to remove and set it aside. I also have got a mortar and pestle. I'm going to just take a pinch of cardamom seeds and just going to crush them down, get them ready. Now at this point I really miss Hetal because we always used to fight on how much cardamom to put in a dish. She loved it and I just don't like it. So just in her honor I'm going to put a little bit, but of course feel free to put as much or as little as you like, especially since I'm not looking. We have our heavy bottom skillet again on a medium to start with. So the first thing I'm going to put in there is the ghee. Now this is going to make a good amount, so if you want to scale it down, again, such an easy recipe to scale down or up, and we're going to just allow this to melt. Again, I'm going to keep the flame on a medium low. I want to have control over everything. And since this is an electric stove, even more important. Alright, it's starting to heat up. I'm going to add the chopped nuts on one side and the coconut on the other side. Just allowing the coconut and the nuts to hit the oil first. And now I'm going to add in basically everything else. In goes the chickpea flour, and once that's mixed in, I'm going to add the 2 cups of sugar, mix that in. Now with pleasure I have to admit that this is not an overly sweet Burfi. So if you do need to scale up, I think you can add in a little bit more sugar and cut down on maybe the dry fruit. It obviously looks like it needs more moisture. We're going to add the heavy whipping cream. Mix well so that there are no lumps, and it's honestly a waiting game from here on. It's important to stay close to the stove, close to the pan, keep stirring. What we're looking for is the mixture to thicken up and to basically leave the sides. So once it starts coming to a boil, I would suggest you reduce the temperature a little bit more and just keep mixing. So this looks done. It's leaving the sides. I'm going on mixing it, and any more it'll become very hard, and I don't want it to be super hard. So last thing I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to turn off the stove. I'm going to put the elaichi powder, give it final mix, and I'm going to pour it into my prepared greased pan and allow it to set. So you've transferred it. It's still very hot. A couple of options you can do. You can decorate it further with either work or with more nuts, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to add a little more dry fruit to it. It's going to be put away, let it cool down just a bit, and then we're going to make perforations, and that way we can make pieces of the burfi a little easier. So back to the burfi. It's been a couple of hours, and halfway through this way, about an hour into it being in the fridge, I actually took it out and I just cut it into the squares just so that it'll be easier. Of course, what I did was I just put some ghee on the knife so that way it's a little easier and it doesn't stick. And now I'm going to take it out. Okay, this is too pretty to eat, so I'm going to try this. I can tell the dry fruits, and there's coconut in there, a little basin, and not overly sweet, which I really like. And I'm really enjoying this. So after some struggling with the mithai, it's finally out. It is delicious and it looks very, very pretty. And my advice to you, have patience, don't be in a big rush. So let it set properly and then you take it out, it'll be a lot easier. So thank you, Soumya, for sharing your grandmother's recipe with us. It is really, really nice. We really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe to ShowMeTheCurry.com. It's free and you'll be the first to know anytime we post a video. So enjoy this recipe and join us again on another episode of ShowMeTheCurry.com, adding a pinch of spice to your life.